one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor York, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Thank you, Lord, for this day, and thank you for this opportunity that we can serve our community. I pray that you help us make good business decisions. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mike Duffy.
Present.
Jeff Hancock.
Present.
Jerry Walton.
Present.
Aaron Dickens.
Here.
Mark Cover.
Here.
Lynn Purdue.
Present.
Rex Beckman.
Here. Okay, approval of minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll make the motion, second minutes from the previous.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Mike Duffy.
Abstain.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walton. Aaron Dickens.
Abstain.
Mark Cover. Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Beckman.
Aye. Okay. Now, do we have any additions to the agenda? We do have one subtraction. We will not do second reading under ordinances of 3888. That was like that pool ordinance, so it has to go to the planning commission before they'll kick it back to us. That will not be on the agenda. Does anybody have anything to add? Okay, well, if there's no objection, we'll consider the agenda approved. We'll go to anybody from the public that would like to speak. Please come forward. Okay, seeing nobody. Not even you, Carrie, you didn't have anything to say?
Nothing. I got nothing. Sorry.
Okay, so now we'll move on to committee reports and council reports. So, Mr. Guffey.
I got a phone call, Lee, and I was going to text you. Sorry, I didn't get it. On G Avenue. There's a cut in the 2300 block of G Avenue, an old road cut that's fell way down. I'll shoot you a text. There's a couple of them. And I'll actually-
What's the address?
I got it. Hang on here.
Because that might be Fred. If it's a cycle, it might be more than just filled in.
Bear with me. 2325 G. G. As in Guffey.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Lee. Hey, also, I don't know if this is the place, but I'm going to do it. If I'm wrong, you can tell me. The email that floated out last week about the state wanting to do away with some stoplights, I want to address the
Yeah, I
council.
forwarded that with you for
Right.
Mr. Parker.
And I know there was some response about, yeah, we're okay with 25th Street. I don't understand why. One response was 11th Street, they're real concerned. You need to go to 25th Street and pull up here and say you're going to use that for a two-way stop. You look at it. That's trouble. And I know the state will probably do whatever they want to do, but we just can't roll over. I mean, you know, I know they probably will, but man, that is bad. I took a resident that lives there.
That whole intersection.
Yes, and you got car lots on three corners, and you got to pull almost all the way out in the middle of Broad Street.
Well, the reason the state wants to take the stoplight out is because it's a bad intersection.
I know.
And then to fix it right, then they're gonna have to do the road work in the intersection. But if you wanna make a motion that we just say no to the state, but they ask you that email, you go for it, and we'll vote on it.
So I'll make a motion and we say no to that email.
Second that.
I'll second.
Okay, and it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
My concern is for Grady and Crown with their semi-tractor traveling through there. There's no way that semi-tractor trailers will be, and they start at 7:30 in the morning, because I back up going to work 7:30 in the morning when I'm trying to make that turn there. Will they have your stop line to stop? It's not back far enough, those trucks make that turn.
They need to rework that intersection. So that it's safe.
Well, it all started, they didn't want to move that one telephone pole, or that one electrical
I think
pole.
there's a big hole on one corner.
Well,
Something about modernization, I'm not sure exactly what they were wanting to do.
Well, they got their pole, sorry, Rex, but they have their electric box out there, you know, where they run their stoplight off of. You can't see around that if you're heading north on 25th Street and you stop there at the light. I just stopped, just to see what the vision was.
In all honesty, the city's got a vested interest in that intersection with the bus department. So,
Yeah,
that's
thanks, Mark, for bringing that up, because that's the other thing.
that's a huge
All of our
investment,
buses were
need for us.
Well, that light pole, back when they did all that work through there, several people complained about them leaving that pole there, basically in a position where anybody that is ADA needs to, get through there correctly, can't do it anyway. They just ignored people's needs once. And I also agree, we need the stoplight at 11 too. I mean, just a meeting or so ago, we voted that the gentleman could develop that corner there. And so we're going to develop that corner. We got former Goodwin and Dale Bonding building, which Mr. Boyles has worked on, and Ms. Baird is working to fill. We've got Kai's Creations that's went in back there. There's a lot of traffic in that intersection too, and I don't think a two-way stop is going to really do what you want there either. So anyway, I think we're pretty much in agreement, maybe discussing that.
I would hope that the state would talk to Grady and Crown.
Well, according to them, they had, according to them, but you don't know, I don't think they had.
They're just lucky they got in touch with Dave and said, hey, what do you think?
According to the email, it seems like they said they've already done a study.
They got a study on it, but they just wanted to see what our response was.
We'll tell them our responses.
I know.
Anyway, let's do a roll call vote.
Before we do that real quick, I did email back, and it didn't even sound cocky.
No,
I really did.
We all got
Just expressing your feelings and your opinion,
Mike, I said that same.
which I don't think too many.
Well, you didn't say it as harsh as I did.
Nobody was for or against.
Okay, let's vote.
Good job. Mike Duffy.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock. Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Aaron Dickens.
Aye.
Mark Coker.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rick Spector.
Aye.
Thank you.
And so, Mr. Parker, would you turn an email to them, tell them,
Sure will.
whoever it is, tell them.
I'll tell that I do community crossing.
Yeah. Well, community crossing grant.
I want to make a
Now, is
match.
that something we're sending in now, or is that in spring?
We'll put it together in
January.
Okay. Okay, any more, Mr. Hancock? Mr. Hancock?
I just want to say, Mike, Patty, good job. Pickleball court looks great.
Oh,
Go out and take a chance and look at it. It looks really nice. Good job. Thank you.
Mr. Walden?
Just a couple of things. Terry, I'm surprised you didn't say something about all the improvements from BRAP that we've been seeing around downtown Newcastle.
Did you know we're gonna have 10 new businesses?
So, yeah,
In
that's why I
2022?
wanted her to get up and say something. So, would you mind doing that?
You want to say something now? No. Well, yeah, come right over.
I was
let's
gonna
see.
pick on you anyway, Terry, so.
Well, I
Mike's next.
had to put something together quickly for the Henry County Community Foundation, because you guys are not the only people I asked money from. I asked money from them as well, so I put a little information about BRAP together for them, and we've only had, the BRAP committee has only had 2 properties submit invoices yet, just because that's the nature of it. It takes a minute. And just in those 2 properties, we have given 6 Henry County vendors, does that make sense? Work, just with those 2 properties. And when I put together, there will be 10 new businesses either relocating, or 10 businesses either relocating, starting in downtown Newcastle in 2022. So that's exciting,
That's cool.
even though we spent all the money all at once.
Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome.
So that's good
Thank
news
you for believing in us.
That's good news from BRAP committee. From the land bank, we have surpassed $34,000 in less than a year. We have put several properties back on the tax roll. And Mike, would you want to give us an update on the properties that we have? We're close to finishing?
Off the top of my head, we've sold 1 house and I think 8 other vacant lots. And this last Thursday, we approved the 3 lots down on North Main where the old playground was. and another lot on South 17th, just off of Indiana. Waiting for those to go through Joel, and so be what, 11 or 12 properties we've sold in just under a year. Going very well.
And with that being said, Ms. Mayor, I want to thank you for the confidence that you had in getting Land Bank going in this council. It is working, and it's working well, and for that group, put all that together, same with BRAC, put all that together in a short amount of time that we did, it's amazing how effective it's been. So thank you for your confidence, thanks for the hard work from those on those committees. And again, I apologize for not putting Mr. Zach on the Land Bank Committee sooner, because he's been a great addition for us. So thanks everyone. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, Mr. Dickey.
Apologize for my absence last couple of meetings, so probably some catch up here. Wanted to thank Building Inspector's Office for keeping all building owners, regardless of who you are or what entity you are, to the standard, especially downtown. So appreciate that work. Attended the airport fly-in on Saturday, and if you haven't been out there to see the apron, I mean, it looked way more impressive with about 5 or 6 airplanes parked on it. But that's just a really great facility. The work that continues to happen at the City of Newcastle Airport is really impressive. Since we talked about stoplights, can we talk about the Indiana main light, or has it been long enough into the school year? Everybody's opinion changed, because mine has not, and I'm ready to just make a decision and put it to bed. But if there's discussion, or if you want to table it until next meeting, I mean, all right, I'm going to make a motion that we have the stoplight reinstalled at Indiana and Main.
I'll second that motion.
Well, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
The only thing I've seen at times and all that is I've seen traffic blocked up for a block or so along Indiana Avenue to 12th Street. And it's just sort of hit and miss. If all those lights are in sequence, you just put them right through them and all that stuff.
Jeff, you can't put them in sequence because it's not a one-way.
It's not one way.
Yeah, a two-way. If you put it in sequence one way, it won't be the other way.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
You could only do that to benefit one direction.
Yeah.
I've been through that intersection, watched it for a number of hours, and I've not seen that myself. But I can tell you personally, I feel a lot more safe leaving Friends Pharmacy than I ever had with the stoplight there. At least I have time to react to people stopping at the stop sign. I've watched it when the school's let out. I've watched it at noon. I've watched it in the morning. I've watched it at slow times. I don't see any issue with traffic.
What are the times you see it backing up? Because even if it changes red, you're still going to have the same.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess I would just summarize it this way. Right now, when it's good, it's good. When it's not, it's definitely not. And the people that I have talked to, I've probably heard one positive to every 5 negative. I think that has to weigh into it because we didn't elect ourselves. I know that maybe isn't necessarily 100% the decision-making process, but it's just my opinion on the matter.
Scott's not here today. Scott's got a business there, so, Scott would have a good input. He's not here today.
Well, I want to say that on the note that I've talked to people also, and I get about 5 positive and 1 negative the way it is now. And, it really doesn't matter to me. Really doesn't. When it first went in, it's just people don't know how to use a 4-way stop. Maybe that's harsh,
We talked
but
about
that's just plain and simple.
14th and 15th. I would hate to go 1 block to stop, 1 block to stop, 1 block to stop. especially if you're 2 or 3 cars behind.
I've been there 3 times and sat twice for a half hour, once for 45 minutes.
I know, we talked years and years ago about putting stop signs up, turn them down a lot of places too, if you remember. A lot of, in residential area, people's requested stop signs, we turned them down.
I gotta agree with Mike and Jerry on this one. I go through there multiple times a day, and the only time, and I've sat several times too, Jerry, and watched, the only time I ever see backup is when the light on 14th changes, and we got a cluster coming up all together, then they all stop. That's the only time I ever see a traffic cluster there. Honestly, I make them all 4-way stops. I do away with all the stoplights. I think traffic flow is I hardly ever see traffic on that intersection anymore. It moves so smoothly now. That's my opinion, and I've tried hard to evaluate that and form an informed, opinion on it. And that's my opinion. I like it the way it is.
My other part, I don't think we've got a true reading on it without stop signs at the other 2 intersections. Because the traffic isn't actually being controlled evenly down through.
No, that's exactly right. Yeah, when the other lights turn, that's when you get that, 6 or 7 cars come up at once. If that was a 4-way, every intersection would run smoothly.
What do you want to do about Church, Ray Pavey Way, Church Street, the 3-way? Well, really, it's a 4-way at the post office.
That's definitely needs to be.
Let's finish the one at Main, and if somebody wants to do a motion on the other ones, we've got one motion on the floor. Yes.
You wanted to test to see if the 4-way would work. Can we make the 15th and 14th flash red both ways to give us some history to see how that works out? Turn them into a 4-way with the light still there. Kind of like by the post office, that flashes every direction, so everybody has flashes red.
If we're gonna make a traffic decision here on basically those 3, I think that'd be a good idea. We'll make them all that way for a while.
Well, then we can, it'd be up there, and if we wanted to take we could table the motion to put back a light there at Main, and then make a decision to attempt 4 ways at those other intersections. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know, how do you feel about that, Mr. Dick?
I'm thinking about it.
Okay. Well, I'll talk a little bit later. I'll filibuster while you're thinking about it.
I'll rescind my motion with, and I know that I legally can't put a caveat on it, but I'm verbally now going to put a caveat on it, that we make a decision next meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, let's just do it tonight.
Are you going to do the others flashing and see what?
Well, I'll make a motion that we make the intersection at Indiana 14th, the intersection Indiana 50, one by the post office already flashed. So just the intersections at 14th and the intersection 50, a 4-way temporarily to see how traffic flows.
I'll second that.
At 15, you might want to look because you have a stop, white stop.
Stop back.
Whatever it's called, too far back on going north on 15th. So that would need to be repainted. Am I right? You think?
Well, it depends on the way that works, Mark, is they done that for traffic coming off of 15th to make that left turn. So yeah, you can move it up a little bit. I don't know that you want to move it up.
I think we probably need to leave that to leave Dave's decision.
They can decide how to lay the
If it
intersection
needs to
out.
be moved up, move it up, whatever.
You were talking about Indiana and Maine. I sat there several times and have watched that, and you're probably moving 10 to 1 cars through that intersection versus the stoplights. And we have put the twirly things on top of all 4 of those. They are now all tagged all-way stops. And we have stop signs warning them that there is a stop sign on Indiana Avenue. And I mean, it's you guys' decision, but from the times that I've been up there, it looks to me like in that one intersection, the traffic flows a whole lot better through there than it does at 15th and
can we, if we make, I mean, of course, if those lights are flashing red, I mean, people will see it, but can we also put some stop signs on the side of the road like we did with their, is that all right, Lee?
We can,
Just to, because then if we do decide to, I mean, eventually we'll probably take out light ban.
Oh, definitely.
You know, so if we put
Dave,
signs
can
up.
you get us some more of those?
I can try, those temporary bases that we have right now, the guys that do the striping, loan those to us. I can see if they've got some more.
See what we can do, if we decide to pass that motion.
Okay.
So let's, anybody want to discuss it further?
Well, I've sat here and I've said, I'm not gonna say it. And I said, well, I should say it, I'm not gonna say it. Well, and all those stoplights, 14th and 15th, we have trouble with them. How often does the fire department go out there and replace those bulbs? 15 seems.
It doesn't seem monthly. I'm not sure it's that often.
We got the quote to put Main Street and Indiana back, and it was $87,000 for a stoplight to put.
How much did you get from the insurance?
That amount, yes, I don't
mean,
know.
we need to see the receipt.
We haven't got the check.
We haven't got,
We haven't got the insurance.
that was the price from the company to put the new
I
one
think that
back.
would be a legitimate thing to give council since we're making a decision of what we were paid and where the money is going.
Well, we haven't been paid the money yet, but we just got two weeks ago, we just got the price of the. Of what it would cost to put that light back.
Do we know, is it insurance, is it actual or, I would assume it's replacement value?
I don't know,
not
because
actual.
that's something that Gina's been working on, and she just got banking information to get them to send it to our account.
All I know is we got the price back, it's taken all this time to get the price back of what it would cost to replace it. To me, $87,000 for a plastic stoplight just seems like a lot of money. I mean, when it comes to public safety, it doesn't matter, whatever it costs, we'll put it back.
The one from Church at 14.
Well, that's the problem. They're old, nothing's on them replaced, well, even the post. To replace the light, you gotta replace the post even now, so it's.
Okay, so let's vote on the motion
I just
to,
want to make sure I have all this right. You rescinded your motion and you seconded the rescind, okay? You want to vote next week on it, correct?
Well,
well, that,
don't put that down.
Okay, all right.
What are you just thinking about?
It's-
let's
Just
know how much
making
the
sure
light
we
will
want the
cost.
minutes.
It's government, we got to.
And now I've got a first and a second that we are putting temporary flashing at Indiana and 14 and Indiana at 15.
yes.
Mike Duffy,
Aye.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye, but I'd like to do a study for 90 days or so before we do anything.
Well, you can't do that right now, you vote aye or yes. You just want to do that later.
I need to talk to Aaron about the 90 days.
Right. Jerry Walton,
Aye.
Aaron Dickens,
Nay.
Mark Covert,
Aye.
Lynn Purdue,
Aye.
and Rex Beckman.
Aye. Okay, so we'll make those flashing. Now, Jeff, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I would like to do it like another 60-day study, but you've got a stop sign, you're gonna have flashing, you're gonna have another flashing. So
I thought I thought you talked to somebody that might come in and do that study, so maybe we could do it.
I don't wanna make a decision in 2 weeks.
It would be nice to know about what some professional thinks about traffic for us, because I'm not a professional, you know, it'd be nice to.
Well, if you're on Main Street going south and you turn on Indiana, and before there was a turn left lane and a go straight lane, you couldn't make that turn without running over the sidewalk. Without going in.
I think it's better to straight turn lanes, for sure.
Yeah, so the size is what I was wanting to know about, the size of the lanes, if they were even legal.
All right.
Last thing I had, since I missed out on the last meeting, I did want to bring up the Murphy Building and the senior center. Since I've talked to several contracting professionals, some preservationists and Indiana landmarks, and a couple times Mr. Barker walked through actually the Friday before the last meeting, and then talked with him again. And I mean, after the last meeting, after a couple phone calls, I expanded my notes do you want to make it a big project? We can make it a big project, including white boxing the third floor and looking at giving that to some, property management company for some loft apartments or something, but,
Give it to Carrie, she'll find something to do with it.
If you give,
She will.
give some money.
and maybe Mr. Peckpaul has more on this, but the people I've talked to, there's really, depending on what you want to do with the building, tuck pointing, it's not gonna matter if it's first, middle, or last. And it's my understanding, seeing what our other local government has done, that we would be wise to be proactive in terms of that building, or we could probably find office space for Shonda and Corey, and just get rid of the building. I mean, I honestly think that it's gotta be one or the other. Mr. Peckpaul, I don't know if you have any, Mr. Barker?
Well, and we still have those resolutions we tabled last meeting on the agenda. I met with a gentleman today at the Murphy Building because realistically, before we tuck point, we really need to remove the paint that's on the building. Because if you tuck point, you're gonna have all these places where you got a little bit of yellow paint. It definitely isn't the right way to do it. He is supposed to get back to me with a quote on what it would take to remove, how much it would cost and what it would take to remove that paint. In the process, I talked to Dave, and he has a person, Plainfield, is that right, Dave? Franklin, that is really busy, but one of the days when it's raining a lot, he may come up here, he's kind of an expert in masonry, look at the building and see kind of what's going on in terms of removing paint and what we need to do with the brick. I think there's a lot of different issues. Hey, Dave, anytime I'm talking about this, if you disagree or I'm not saying it right, you just tell me.
Just give it back to head.
Yeah, just kidding. But anyway, there are a lot of issues there. There's places where it's been patched, and I'm not so sure that some of the brick used wasn't really the right type of brick, because you walk along, you see places where parts of the brick are just falling out. Eventually, I would assume those will just kind of, be lost altogether. And, but something, and I don't think, I hope nobody in this room, I don't think there's anybody in the room that would say that we need to just let the building go and not fix it or not attempt to save it. As I talked to Mr. Barker, we had the tuck pointing, amount that we know we can get a tuck pointing for, and as I talked to him, he said even if we didn't use that person, if we allocated that amount of money, it doesn't mean we have to spend that amount of money necessarily. So when we do that resolution later, and I think it's $120,000, well, it just means we're allocating up to that. It doesn't mean that has to get spent, I guess would be the way to put it. But it puts us in a position where when we do need to move and we get the opportunity to move, we can. But I was in that building today. I mean, if you've not been really over there and really walked around and looked at the brick and the, everything on the outside of the building, if you just go inside the building and go to the third floor, I told Dave, I said, we ought to really maybe think about getting somebody to rent it to them and let them run a haunted house. Maybe we can make enough money to fund the project, because you go up there and I mean, it's an interesting looking place up there. And then you look out the window and you see the back of it, and it makes it even more interesting place. And, so I just think we need to be, again, try to be proactive, so we're not looking, now we're looking at maybe, $300,000 or $400,000 to get that building to where it's a nice building and it's good for the next 15 or 20 years, whereas coming down the road, it may not be us, but somebody's going to be left with a project either that got tear down the oldest building in the city, or they've got to come up with $3 or $4 million. So that's kind of, anything else to that, Aaron?
I mean, that's,
Am I hitting that
I think-
about right, Dave? But Dave's definitely, I know you asked about Dave, but he's definitely in the loop on all this, and, it's not, we're not gonna try to, I don't know what the word would be, but we just want to see that building, made sound again and made strong enough so that it's gonna be here for another generation, I guess would be what we do.
Absolutely.
And like I say, any of these things are not, it's just like when we allocated money, we've allocated money 2 or 3 times, and actually on one sidewalk on Main Street, I think we allocated $80,000, and we used, way less than that. That money just drops back in the ARP. Nobody gets that money until they hand the bill to Brenda. So that's a pretty good thing. Okay.
Got an excellent elevator. I mean, it's got access to the
That's
3rd
good.
floor.
Right.
The front door is terrible. Corey's already got a price to replace the door, and that bill was $11,000. But it's supposedly the 3rd most historic building we have in Newcastle. And with all the aluminum on the front of it, it doesn't look historic to me. All I'm saying is if we're gonna do something to it, we should make it look historic.
And I think that's not, honestly, I think, I'm not all that great at all that stuff. I'll be honest with you. But Aaron's very good. He's very good at researching it. He's very good at communicating with people in the higher ups in the historic preservation community. So that's why I've kind of asked him over the course of time to kind of take the lead on it and stuff. Maybe I ask him to take the lead on it just so I can write him like a pack mule. I don't know, but he does a great job. Again, we're not going to try to put anything over it, but I just like to see the building be good and make all the doors and everything be good too. So anyway.
Mr. Peckinpah,
Yep.
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I had brought up to some of the people in the historical preservation your concern at the last meeting about the windows,
Right.
and they shared with me, Aaron, you and Brittany and Dave have already discussed pursuing the windows.
so actually, also the Friday before the last city council meeting, Vintage Windows Restoration came back and took care of some of the minor issues that, came about with the wooden windows, filled some gaps, put some trim and, all of that. So, the biggest issues when it comes to gusts of wind and precipitation in that building really is outside of the window frames, between the brick and the window frame. And I think we've talked about going in with some spray foam just to seal it up. And that's all it is. And I'm not saying that in a cheeky manner. If we could structure an RFP to make sure that this goes to somebody who's going to keep the preservation of this really unique and historic building. If you don't know the story, give it to somebody who does, because they may be better stewards of the building than we are able to. Not that we don't want to, it's that we are not able to. So that's all.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Val?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Kobe?
I just need to see Mr. Markham before we can.
Mr. Grigg?
I have nothing.
I don't think I have anything either, so I'll turn it over to, I've talked for longer than I have talked to the council meeting. Anyway, turn it over to the mayor.
Chief, you have anything?
I do not.
Chief?
No, sir.
Mike? Dave?
I haven't confirmed with Bo Markham with Milestone. Last Friday, they were planning on Thursday and Friday milling and resurfacing the back parking lot behind the building, which is long overdue. And they're the guys that's supposed to also seal the front parking lot across the street. Also, I think NDOT is going to try to get 103 South, start milling on that, if not next week, the following week, from Broad Street all the way out to Riley. And then they'll start paving the following week. So I'm not sure if it's this coming Monday or the following. They haven't confirmed that date. They're getting close. They had to get all the curb ramps done first along that stretch.
Are they working with school corporations on those routes?
I am,
You are?
Yeah. when they confirm the dates, I call the school.
Thanks.
Anything else?
That's all I got.
I have anything else?
Brendan? Steve? Nope. Greg? Lee? The only thing that I have no idea why we've had such a rash this year, wanting to know when trick or treat's gonna be this year. It's gonna be Monday, October 31st. Had churches call, wanting to know when it's gonna be. I guess it's because it hits on Monday, I don't know, but it's always on trick or treat night. I mean, it's always from 5 to 8, so it's gonna be Monday the 31st. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to resolutions. Resolution 09192-022-1, a resolution authorizing the allocation of coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds for the provision of specified government services and further amending the city's written plan for expenditure. Now therefore be resolved by the Common Council of the City of Newcastle, Indiana as follows. The Common Council hereby allocates a sum of $485,000 for the improvement of the wastewater treatment plant and for the acquisition of equipment to be used in support of the operation of the wastewater treatment plant, including the following: sand drying and bed polymer feed system, installing railing and a crane for the headwork system, renovating the skin bars on 2 primary clarifiers, purchasing a used dumpster removal truck with any remaining funds to be spent at the discretion of the superintendent of the wastewater treatment plant. I might add at that point that there'll be very little, if any, remaining funds, but to put that in there just in case. 2, the written fiscal plan for the expenditure of revenue received from the coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund is attached here too as Exhibit A, and each such expenditure is allocated in replacement of lost revenue. The remaining sums received by the City of Newcastle through the coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund may be utilized for any of the purposes set forth in 42 U.S. Code 803C. The written plan for expenditure will be amended from time to time as determined by the Common Council in advance of any other expenditures. I move we pass this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? We have Mr. Dickerson here. And this amount is, I don't know if it's even half of some things we've talked about going out there. Talked to him, he sent me an email with several things they're trying to do. I mean, later on we may want to put some more money here because we heard earlier this year we had quite a need out there. But if you have any questions specifically about any of these things, please feel free to ask, Mr. Peterson.
Steve, I know you guys do most of the work out there. Is that what you plan to do?
We will work with some of the improvements, work with all of them, whether we have these experts come in on some of them, maybe a few engineering, but a lot of the cost of items is just going to skyrocket on us, and that's a big thing. But there'll be some of the work that we will do, yes.
How many years out will this put us to be in better shape?
Well, it'll bring us up closer to where we need to be right now, but that will give us some 5 to 10 years of lifetime.
Some of this is just equipment that our guys can install, and some of it's, some things that we can't install.
We will do as much as we can.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, please roll call vote.
Mike Duffy.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Gary Walton.
Aye.
Aaron Diggins.
Aye.
Mark Hogan.
Aye.
Lynn Green.
Aye.
Rex Beckdahl.
Aye. I'm really agreeing with this. Okay, now we'll look at Resolution 09062-022-2, resolution authorizing the allocation of coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds for the provision of specified government services and further amending the city's written plan for expenditure. Common Council hereby allocates the sum of up to $150,000 for tuck pointing work on the city-owned building located at 108 South Main Street. The written fiscal plan for expenditure, revenue received from the coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund is attached. The remaining sums received from the city of by the city of Newcastle through the coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund may be utilized for any other purpose set forth in 42 U.S. Code 803C. The written plan will be amended from time to time as determined by the Common Council in advance of any other expenditures. And I will pass this resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? I would say again, this is a maximum amount, and we would not just immediately start tuck pointing until we find out about if we need removal on some other things.
Counselor, if we amend that to use, like if we found out it's gonna cost $25,000 to power wash it to get the paint off of, could we use that $25,000 of this?
I mean, I think so,
towards
it's part of
the preparation.
the preparation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would view that as part of the preparation.
So any of the first works to move towards that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna be power wash or sandblast.
And we may have to add a little bit or so.
Yeah.
But this will get us in a position where we've got something to move on, we should be doing.
Get the project started.
Okay, roll call.
Just one thing. Aaron and Rex have done a good job driving this home. I used to do masonry back when I was younger.
Are you offering to do some?
No, I'm not, but I am telling that if you don't get it right, your tuck point is wasted. And there's, you gotta get it right, because like I said, I was raised in masonry.
Well, that's why I'd like to
That's
have
huge.
Jim and Dave talk about it.
Yes, that's good that he's coming.
Come down, because that'll give us a couple of, at least two opinions.
That's huge. I just wanted to slip that on.
Okay, so roll call vote.
Mike Duffy.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock. Jerry Walton.
Aye.
Aaron Dickens.
Aye.
Mark Hover.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Beck.
Aye. Okay. Resolution 09062-022-3. Here's all these names.
0919.
You're coming up with different
You're
numbers.
saying 06.
You haven't hit any of the numbers I've got.
No, this is the one on,
We plan on-
this is, so this is for the roofs, 09192-022-3.
You're saying-
Yeah, but none of mine have a 6 in it.
I think those two were the original resolution.
Yeah, I went back, yes, I didn't have the, what's listed here is one thing, but there was no writing with that.
Gotcha.
So I had to go back and find the writing, and so
Okay.
that's why.
I just want to make sure I got the right
Yeah,
one.
yeah, you're right, yeah. But I was reading it off the original document. Common Council hereby allocates a sum of $130,000 for repair and replacement of roofs on the city-owned buildings located at 108 South Main Street, 112 South Main Street, and 1109 Broad Street. And it's the same thing as far as written fiscal plan for the expenditure revenue received from the coronavirus funds here to attach to Exhibit A, and the remaining sums received by the city can be utilized for any purpose set forth in 42 U.S. Code 803C, and the written plan may be amended from time to time as determined by the Common Council in advance of the other expenditures. I move we pass this resolution.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Now we have discussion. Now, Dave, I saw Kendra sent out a quote for a roof. Was that just on the Murphy building itself?
No, that was all of them. He had 4 separate quotes. If you add those together, they hit around 83,000. But I want to let you know that one of the guys from that company did call me today to see if they want to move forward, but I know we got to get through this first.
Okay, so if we pass this as is, it says 130.
32.
We don't have to, so we're fine.
Right.
Okay, all right, because I'm more than happy to go with your quote.
It's the same guy.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yes, does that include overhang work?
This roof only.
I know the mayor had some concern with that, so that's just the roof only.
Well, if we have some money left over, which we should, if that quote holds true, Maybe we can talk about overhang work and gutters.
And gutters.
Because I looked up every day that we got a nice, yeah, we need a lawnmower. Looks like they're all mowed.
Well, my favorite's the downspout that dumps out on the sidewalk.
Yes.
Personally.
But that's, we need to make a list of all the things we need to do because that, when we want to do it all. But this will cover, Dave can get the ball rolling on that as soon as we pass this resolution, and we won't spend the whole 130, but if they run into something, there's a little more there than if we just allocated the 80-something. And we don't have to bid on that low of an amount, so that's good. We can get those done before winter. Any discussion?
Eric, on gutters and things like, is there a historical code going into
That's
that?
a good question. I would imagine the gutters are like one of those things where, I mean, they have them back in the late 1800s when this building was,
They
yeah,
don't have to
probably
be
not.
copper or anything like that.
Back in the old days, they had box.
Those pressure running out now.
I don't think until you came up about another one, and I think if it's cost prohibited, I think we want to match as close as possible.
Yeah.
But I think we do
I'll
appreciate the
look.
cost prohibitive factor.
I'll look into it. They just see what.
They're painted, they're painted.
They're pretty
Okay, let's vote on that resolution, please.
Mike Duffy.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock. Jerry Walton. Aaron Dickens.
Aye.
Mark Hoder.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Beckman.
Okay, now we have ordinance 3889 to ordinance 3897.
3896.
38, yeah, 96, because the other one, that keeps mine away. Okay, Joel, can we treat these all together for vote if we so desire?
I think you can. I mean, you have to read each number into the.
Yes, is there anyone who would, first let me ask.
I would read the budget separate than the others.
Okay.
That's just my.
Well, that's what we'll do, one that says that bid.
That's how I wrote it, because I think you have to vote on the budget separate.
Okay. So we'll go back here to Okay, now, what I have here, when I click on budget under my,
The budget is.
in the email, I've got a spreadsheet.
Right, it's Form 1, 2, and
Okay, so I'm not really reading anything with this.
Right,
Okay.
right.
All right, so, the budget ordinance is 3889. Hopefully everybody's looked at that budget in the book that was passed out to us last week. And so I'm moving we pass the 2023 budget, first reading.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
As I went through there and looked at that, I noticed there were some pretty significant increases, some raises throughout. And I don't have a problem with that but I need to ask, just a year or two ago, we were like $3 million deficit on our insurance premiums. Are we improving that at all?
we are, we talked about that today. Because of COVID, we ended 6 million in the red. Right now, we're at 5 million. We have 3 more months to go, but at the end of the year, when we get the second tax draw, we take another 1.9 off of that figure. So we're looking to end this year roughly around 4 million. So, because we got hit pretty hard with COVID in 20 and 21. We had a big $700, almost $800,000 hit right off the bat in February that we didn't get anything back from when we closed out Anthem and went to Unified. Correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, but I think this is right because all of those were 2020 But because they didn't hit till 2021, we had to pay the 150,000 per person twice, one in each year.
Stop me if I get too technical, but because there's a lag in how claims run, we pay claims on a run-out basis. So a contract is like a 24/12 where, you have a 12-month contract period, but the claims is gonna be 24 months because Anthem's still gonna mitigate their claims that are within that contract period. They may just not process till the next year. We get a percent expected, or an expected dollar amount each year. The actuaries give that to us. So that's something that when we set budget, we should have an idea. Based on that, Brenda could probably tell you the percent of expected. 100%, hopefully we're at least budgeting expected and more because I know that line pays for, Medicare premiums and health link fees and all of that. So hopefully we're at least budgeting the expected amount. But if we are budgeting correctly and we hit 100% of expected, then theoretically it would be a wash. We deplete our insurance fund, but we would have covered all the claims. If we finish 75% of expected, that means we should theoretically have a surplus that would carry over. And that's how you see these counties and these cities establish a reserve, which helps when you're paying claims if you have a bad year. And then that keeps the premiums you're passed on to your employees down because you're not having to raise those. Now, I don't have those numbers for obvious reasons, but Brenda's got them and I can help, understand everything.
Okay. So I know a couple of years ago, you had said publicly that we would have this resolved in 2 years.
That was before COVID, because we got hit hard with COVID, didn't we?
When you say hit hard, meaning claims?
As far as claims, yes.
Claims, okay.
We had.
Well, it started raining money after COVID too, so.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that we are able, so you're telling me that we're okay. I mean, we are on
The
track
fund is coming
to
down.
zero out that deficit.
Yes,
Okay, that's all I need to hear.
because we are actually budgeting kind of more than what expected is right now. And, something that wasn't being done in the past is like sewer and water. We're doing a monthly transfer from them for their portion. So that helps get that built back up. So anytime we can transfer somebody's, like we did, they normally can't afford to pay their insurance portion from transit, but he got a grant. So we took 109,000 of that and put over onto for their insurance portion, so.
And Brenda can correct me if I'm wrong, if you take past years out of it, the last 2 years, I think we've covered those years.
Right.
It's these, previous 5 or 6 years where things maybe weren't necessarily budgeted correctly that we're still chipping away at.
All right.
And then the state gave us controllers today to kind of help us straighten some things out too, so I feel pretty good about this.
Okay.
So if we were 2 years out, like Lynn mentioned, if we were 2 years out, COVID hit, and we are improving, what are we thinking now?
I can't.
I know we can't foresee what's out there, but.
I think
Yeah, right.
originally we were looking at knocking $1.5 million off,
A year.
a savings of $1.5 million every year.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, so we've had a motion and a second to pass the budget, first reading. Seeing hearing no more discussion, roll call vote.
Mike Guffey.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock. Jerry Walden. Aaron Dickens. Mark Covert. Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Beckton.
Aye. Okay, Brenda, I want to ask you a question about each of these next 7 items, okay, that might help us be able to pass them all.
Okay.
Department of Finance salary, are there any increases in those salaries?
No.
Okay. Elected officials salary, are there any increases?
No.
Okay. Management salaries?
No.
No. Hourly salaries?
The only difference in hourly is, they get their 2%, which is, contractual.
Contracted in.
And then to try to help with our CDL drivers issue that we're having if your job requires you to hold a CDL, you will get $1 an hour more.
Okay. And then, the fire EMS and police salaries are pretty much all the same in terms of what we're doing, so.
We're looking at 11% right now increase.
Okay. So hearing all that, I'll move that we pass, and if somebody wants to break one of these out or break it down, we'll be glad to, but I'm moving that we pass 3890, 91, 3892, 3893, 3894, 3895, and 3896 on first reading.
Second that motion.
Okay, does anybody want to discuss any of it?
I do have one question, if I may.
Go ahead.
If it's okay, I mean, just to get a clarification on CDL drivers. Is it going to be all CDL, people that hold CDLs, or is it just going to be if their job classification says they have to have a CDL?
If their job that they're doing, because I know your department, some do, some don't. If the job that they're actually doing that day requires CDL, so it's gonna be like a rate 1, rate 2, which is what we already do.
Right.
Yeah, they'll get the $1.
Okay.
Because some of your guys don't have a CDL.
Yeah, I've got 3 that don't, okay. I was just
Yeah.
because I know that's going to be asked.
It's gonna cover almost all your people.
Anybody that has to have a CDL gets the additional.
Okay.
Come see me
Okay, so
tomorrow
why
and
don't
I'll break
you
it
get
down
with,
for you.
with Brendan and Greg on that, because, I mean, we're good, this, we won't be able to right now even, I mean, we can't amend these because the budget either has to be passed, I believe I'm correct, either has to be passed or voted down. We can't go in, the only thing we could do is we could take something out of the budget, but we cannot add something into the budget.
Okay.
There you go.
So you need to basically, how it's gonna be administrated, you need to take that up with Brendan and Greg. because we
That's
don't
why I
have-
was just, that was just kind of, yeah, I just want to make sure, because I know tomorrow they're going to ask.
Right, so
And I can tell you that it's going to cause a little heartburn. But I mean, it is what it is, because everybody has an opportunity to get a CDL driver's license.
Right.
So I was just wanting to make sure, my own clarification.
The union was very persistent in 3 separate meetings that if you hold a CDL license, that you got additional pay. Very specific. That's what the union asked for.
But another thing on that instance is those people that don't have a CDL, it might give them a little incentive to get one.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I was just curious.
Mr. Purdue?
Yeah, can I clarify one thing? Let's say an employee that holds a CDL, but that day, he is not performing a duty that requires a CDL, does he still get that $1?
Still gets it.
So if you've got
If he holds a CDL
it doesn't
license,
matter
CDL.
what you're doing for the
Because
day.
90% of those jobs, it's mostly like the clerks who don't have.
Well, I think that's Lee's question, I
Right.
think that's what.
That was what I'm saying.
Exactly.
If
It
you've
wasn't the
got-
same thing they said.
Yeah, so let's back up.
But again, Lee, now I'm not trying, I think we want to keep the meeting moving.
Yeah.
And what you need
We'll
to
talk
do
about it
is get
tomorrow.
with Brenda, because we don't, at this point in time, we really don't have a dog in the fight as to who gets the $1.
Right, I understand. I
Okay,
just,
so I think if you'll talk to her,
okay.
we can keep moving.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, I'm not trying to be rude to you. but-
No, I get it. I just,
We've worked
but that's
on
your,
that.
yeah, that's fine.
We worked it all out, so.
Mr. Peckinpah,
Yeah,
can I ask a question?
sure.
So when was the last time the employees got a raise other than
Notices.
this year,
This year.
This year, they're getting
22.
hourly employees get 2% raise.
Yeah,
hourly employees?
Yes.
everybody got a raise last year.
Yeah.
Everybody got a raise last year.
But this year,
It's
Hourly
the
employees,
hourly and
police,
police,
fire,
fire, and
EMS.
EMS.
okay, thank you.
All right, so we have 3890 to 3896. Had a motion to pass those, motion was seconded. Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mike Duffy.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walton.
Aye.
Aaron Dickens.
Aye.
Mark Koger.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Peckinpah.
Aye. Okay. Ordinance number 3890 97, an ordinance vacating the right-of-way within the city of Newcastle, Indiana. Whereas Ross McAllister has petitioned the city of Newcastle to vacate a public right-of-way that is described as the platted alley between parcel number 030-55735-00, parcel number 030-55734-00. That's 2012 South 19th Street, and parcel number 030-55701 on the west, and parcel number 03-90401-00, that's 2010 Penn Avenue on the east. There's a map depicting that area attached. Whereas the area is not currently utilized by the public as a means of ingress or egress, and vacating the area will not impede access to any property or negatively impact the development of the city. And whereas the Common Council has held a public hearing on the petition and has provided notice of the hearing by publication by certified mail to each owner of land that abuts the property proposed to be vacated. Now therefore be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Newcastle, Indiana, that the petition to vacate real estate filed by Ross McAllister is hereby granted. It is further ordained that the following public way is vacated to wit: the platted alley between parcel number 030-55735-00, parcel number 030-55734-00, 2012 South 19th Street, and parcel number 030-55701 on the west, and parcel number 030-90401-00, 2010 N Avenue on the east. So we didn't pass this.
Second.
I feared somebody. I think I pushed the sleep. I pushed the sleep for it. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Is there anybody here for the public?
Well, they'll have a
We'll have
public
the hearing next
meeting.
Does this give to the planning commission?
But this doesn't, vacates don't have to go through the planning commission. Yeah, just to you guys. The hearing.
Okay, well, any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Mike Guthrie.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock. Jerry
I said
Walter.
earlier.
Aaron Diggins. Mark Coker.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Beckman.
Aye. So that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting. I do want to recognize Myra McIntyre and Janet Maxwell. I think you guys are here with the League of Women Voters, and I appreciate you guys being here. And with that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, adjourn.